Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to the explainer that's absolutely going to help you crush your flight controls ground exam. I know, as a PPL student, you've got a massive mountain of material to get through, so we're keeping this session hyper-focused, highly visual, and giving you exactly what you need to pass with flying colors. Look, I completely get it. The sheer volume of information in your ground school textbooks can feel, well, totally overwhelming at times. It's a lot to take in. But hey, take a deep breath. We're going to lock these core aeronautical concepts into your memory right now, step by step, so that when you sit down for that exam, the answers are just second nature. All right, so here's your flight plan for today's study session. We'll start with number 1, the center of gravity. Break down the 3 primary axes, longitudinal, lateral, and vertical. Look at some alternative controls, and finish up with a master final exam review. Let's get to work. Section 1, center of gravity. Let's start with the central anchor point for everything an aircraft does in the sky. The crucial thing here is that all 3 axes act like imaginary axles passing right through the aircraft's center of gravity, or the CG. Just picture it in your mind for a second. 3 lines meeting directly in the middle of the plane, intersecting at perfect 90-degree angles. This right here is exactly why your weight and balance calculations before a flight are absolutely critical. If your baggage or passengers shift that CG way too far backward or forward, the way the plane rotates around these lines becomes unstable and, honestly, genuinely dangerous. Any change in flight attitude means the plane is literally rotating around one or more of these invisible lines anchored right at this specific spot. Moving on to Section 2, the longitudinal axis. Now check out this connection to the sea. The longitudinal axis is an imaginary line running straight from the nose of the plane all the way back through the tail. When the plane rotates around this nose-to-tail axle, the motion perfectly resembles a ship rolling from side to side on the ocean waves. Actually, because early aviation borrowed so heavily from maritime navigation, that is exactly where aviators got the term. Pretty cool, right? You are guaranteed to be tested on this, so lock this holy trinity into your memory right now. The longitudinal axis gives us roll, and that rolling motion is controlled by the ailerons out on the trailing edge of the wings. When you turn your yoke left or right, those ailerons move in opposite directions, dropping one wing and raising the other. Nose to tail, roll, ailerons. Just say it a few times out loud until it sticks perfectly. Up next, Section 3, the lateral axis. Okay, so if you draw an imaginary line from one wingtip straight across the fuselage over to the opposite wingtip, well, you found your lateral axis. Imagine grabbing that axle and spinning it. Rotating around that specific wingtip to wingtip line creates a nose-up or nose-down motion. Think of it exactly like a playground seesaw. When the nose goes up, the tail goes down, and vice versa. In aviation, we refer to that seesaw motion as pitch. Here's your second memory mapping. The lateral axis controls pitch, and pitch is managed by the elevators located at the horizontal stabilizer on the tail of the aircraft. When you pull back on the yoke, the elevators go up, the tail goes down, and the nose pitches right up into a climb. So wingtip to wingtip, pitch, elevators. That is your second fundamental pillar of flight control. All right, time for a really quick break from the serious studying to give your brain a rest. Let's see if you can answer this one. Why do you think the airplane was grounded by its parents? Because it had a bad altitude. Okay, groans aside, a good dad joke never hurt anyone's exam score, right? Let's refocus and get back to our final primary axis. Section 4, the vertical axis. We've covered roll and pitch, so now for the third dimension. This one's arguably the easiest to visualize if you just imagine a giant pole dropping straight down from the sky, passing vertically right through the aircraft's center of gravity. If the airplane pivots around that vertical pole, the nose sweeps horizontally left and right. That flat side-to-side motion is termed yaw. It's kind of like turning your head to look left or right without actually tilting it. Completing our primary aircraft controls, the vertical axis gives us yaw, which you dictate using the rudder pedals on the floor of the cockpit. You step on the right pedal, the rudder deflects right, the tail swings left, and the nose yaws over to the right. So, vertically through the CG, yaw, rudder. You now have the full 3D picture of conventional aircraft control mapped right out in your head. Let's look at Section 5, alternative aircraft controls. Now, there is a tiny catch here. While ailerons, elevators, and rudders are standard for regular airplanes, you're definitely going to be tested on a couple of exceptions that handle these axes entirely differently. Examiners, they just love to make sure you understand the broader principles of flight, not just how a standard Cessna works. So let's quickly contrast two unique aircraft types that you absolutely need to know about for your exam: weight shift control microlights and powered parachutes. First up, weight shift control. In a microlight or a trike, you don't have those traditional control surfaces on the wings or the tail. Instead, the pilot sits under a flexible wing, holding onto an A-frame with a horizontal control bar. To maneuver, you physically push against that control bar, literally shifting the entire aircraft's center of gravity to command roll and pitch. By pushing the bar forward, you shift the CG back, pitching the nose up. It's an incredibly hands-on, visceral way to fly that relies purely on pendulum physics. Then, we have powered parachutes. So instead of rigid wings, they rely on a flexible parachute wing. This chute has a cambered upper surface and a much flatter undersurface. As it moves forward through the air, ram air aggressively inflates the internal cells to maintain a proper aerofoil shape. The pilot doesn't shift their weight here. Instead, they control the aircraft by pulling steering lines that literally warp and alter the shape of that aerofoil trailing edge. It's a completely different application of aerodynamics, but, it's still completely reliant on those core principles of lift and control to maneuver safely. Finally, Section 6, Final Exam Review. All right, future pilots, you've made it to the end. It is time for the Master's Study Guide. You will absolutely see questions covering this on your ground exam, so go ahead and take a screenshot of this right now. Seriously, grab your phone or hit print screen. This is the ultimate cheat sheet that ties the whole shebang together perfectly. Let's recap it one last time. Longitudinal axis means nose to tail, resulting in roll, controlled by ailerons. Lateral is wingtip to wingtip, resulting in pitch, controlled by elevators. And vertical is straight down through the CG, resulting in yaw, controlled by the rudder. Memorize this grid, and you just bought yourself several correct answers on test day for sure. I want to leave you with this fundamental rule straight from the textbook. No matter how incredibly complex an aerobatic maneuver looks from the ground, spins, barrel rolls, hammerheads, it all essentially comes down to rotating around those three simple, invisible lines intersecting at the center of gravity. Every single loop, roll, and turn is just physics acting on those axes. Understanding that removes the mystery from flying and turns it into pure, predictable science. Study hard, trust your training, and remember that mastering these fundamentals is what makes you a safe and confident pilot. Before you go, ask yourself this: which of these three axes do you think is the hardest to master during your first really tricky crosswind landing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this explainer helped clear the skies for you today and made studying just a little bit easier, be sure to like and subscribe for more PPL ground school breakdowns. We've got plenty more on the way. Good luck on that exam.